Welcome back. It's been a few weeks since we managed to get anything done on the van. It's been Christmas, we've had problems with the weather, we've had snow, we've been on holiday, we've been ill, and we both work full time, so that's why you might not have seen a video for a little while. So in today's video we're going to be installing a diesel heater in the van. The reason why we're going to get on with the diesel heater is due to the weather, the cold, the rain. We want to be able to work in the van on evenings and when it is cold. So what we've done, we've gone for a Kroak Diesel Heater. Croak used to be known as H Calory. They're a little bit more expensive than the cheap Chinese diesel heaters, but we've heard good things about these ones. So that's why we decided to go for this one. The one we've got is a F1S, which comes with Bluetooth, so we can control it from the app. We can control it with the remote control as well as the screen itself. So this is what comes in the box. We've got the diesel heater itself. You get the thin tank, some fuel line, the pump, the filter, basic instructions, they're not very good to be fair, and a clip for the pump. So you get the outlet for the air, you get a vent. You only get one vent, but you do also get a T, so we are going to have to buy another vent if we want more than just the one, which we probably will. You get an exhaust, a muffler, although I'm not sure how good that is because that is just straight through. You get an air intake and an air intake filter. You get a load of Jubilee clips and nuts and screws and various bits for the fuel hose. You get a few cable ties, and then you've got the screen, the remote control, and then you do get a wiring loom which needs to go between the actual diesel heater on the inside of the van, not on the bottom of the van, to the screen and to the pump, and then it needs 12 volt power as well. What it comes with, it just comes with this plate. So you bolt that plate onto the bottom of the diesel heater, and then you simply use these 4 holes to screw it down to the inside of the van. But because we've done the floor, that's not actually going to be suitable for what we're doing. So what we've actually purchased separately to the diesel heater, it's a similar sort of plate, but it's got a ring on it. I think it's got a 60mm ring on there, all stainless steel. So when we go through the floor of the van, it's actually going to protect the floor rather than having all the insulation and everything exposed. And then what we've also done, we've bought some heat resistant silicone, just so when we fasten it down we can seal the inside of the van and the outside of the van, stop any weather getting into the floor and causing any damage. So the first thing we need to do is decide where we want it, and also drill a hole through the floor. So we've also had to buy this hole saw, which is 127mm. It's designed to drill through metal, but it will go through the wood, the insulation, and straight through the floor. So we'll mark up and we'll get through the floor. So what we want to do, because the back end of the wheel arch is going to be under the bed, we're going to try and get the diesel heater as close to the edge of the bed as possible, so it can feed into the, we go under the kitchen into the living area, and we're probably going to take one into the shower. So we've just marked out the 2 circles being where the exhaust and the air intake for the diesel heater are, and the spot in the middle is where we're going to drill. And then Sam thought it'd be funny to put a V on there and make it look like an owl. So what we'll do, we'll try and measure underneath, see if it's suitable, and we'll drill through to the inside. So we've drilled the hole through. It's not actually where we wanted it to be. Initially we wanted it to be, as you can see, where the markings are up there, but unfortunately I went underneath, it's close to one of the leaf springs, so I've ended up having to bring it back a little bit and into the side as well. So that's through, and what we've also done, we've just put a bit of galvanising spray just on the bare metal as we've drilled through, just to protect it. So what we'll do, we'll get the diesel heater built up and get it fastened in position. So the heater's come already with these four bolts into the bottom, which we can put nuts on the other side. So we've already tried this in the hole, it fits nice, so that simply fits on there, and then we fasten it down. What we do need to be mindful of as well is that we don't mix the exhaust and the air intake up. So on this one there's an arrow on the air intake, which is that one. So what I'm probably going to do, because that's quite hard to see on the metal, just with a permanent mark, I'm just going to write in on there. I'll just mark it rather than write in. I know that's the in. So it's just 4 little nuts. I think they're M6. So the black hose is the air intake. So as we've marked up, we're just going to put that on there. Because of the ring, it is actually a little difficult to get these Jubilee clips on, but you can just get in with a little 1/4 inch socket. And then the shiny silver one, or the stainless steel one for the exhaust. So as you can see in there now, we've put the 4 nuts on the end of them bolts, the Jubilee clip on the exhaust and on the air intake, and then the little red cap there, that's just covering up where the fuel filler goes. So I'm just going to put a bit of fuel line on that now, and then we should be able to get the heat in position. So the clips it gives you, they're just little sort of squeeze clips. You just squeeze them to open them and let go to release. And there's also a bulbous part on the end of this nozzle, which hopefully will just stop it from coming back off. So the heater is now in place. We've got the outlet at this end, the intake at this end, so the outlet can feed into the van. The connection inside is the electrical connection, which goes to the pump and the controller. So we'll get underneath. What we're going to do, I'm going to put some of the heat protection silicone on the ring where it comes underneath. I'm just going to try and get an amount under there. So we'll get that done next, and then we'll get connected up with the we'll get the exhaust in place, the air intake in place, and then we'll get the fuel line and the electrics in up inside the van. For the tank on this, initially we are going to use the tank that's supplied, so we're just going to put that just inside the back door, so it's away from the heater, so it's not going to get hot, but it just allows us to fill up, etc. What we're looking at doing is maybe getting an undermounted tank at some point, but we're just working out how we're actually going to fill that up. So let's get underneath and get some sealant on. So as you can see, that ring has just brought us through. It only sticks to a few mils, but what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and get some sealant just on the gap between the ring and the bottom of the van, just to stop any weather and damp, etc. getting up into the insides of the van. So there we are, just a bit of that heat resistant silicone around, which should hopefully get it, or stop it from getting any weather up there. So next jobs, I've got to get the exhaust. So we've got the exhaust here, so we're somehow going to have to bend that round and get it in a position. Obviously bear in mind that's hot, so I need to make sure it's not going to affect anything. The air intake, we can probably just put that somewhere there, although we do need to be mindful, I think, because actually the tyres there, so maybe we need to go the other way. So yeah, let's get that in place. So we're going to try and put the air up here, something like this, so that it's up out the way. Maybe on that side actually. It should fit there, it's there. Now you do only get a couple of clips in the pack. There's one for the exhaust and one for the air intake. Plus we're just going to be really mindful of where dirt's going to hit. So I might go on this side actually. Perhaps if we put it there like that, that should be alright. So we get these sort of P-shaped clips for this and a self-drilling screw, and you can literally just ram them in with the drill. Again, I'm just being mindful of where the exhaust is going to end up as well. Make sure it's not, it should be alright as long as it's not touching, I hope. That's not brilliant. It's actually squashed the pipe a little bit. So the pump has got a flow arrow on it, because obviously it'll only pump one way. I don't know if you can see it just there. I'm actually going to fit it back to front as such, because the electric's coming in at this end. I don't want the electrics getting covered in crap and everything, and we're coming from the back of the van anyway when we drop through with the cable. So I'm going to mount it back to front and then just loop the fuel pipes around it. I'll just get a couple of cable ties on that, and that's that. And then what I'm going to do, so the next job now, I've got to get the electric down and the fuel down from the tank, which as I say is going to go in the bottom of the van. So we've got the exhaust sort of pointing to that open area. We might end up having to move that because we've got to get water tanks under here, but if we move that we can We can do it when the time comes. We've got the air just up under that cross member there. So say we've got the tyre, I don't want too much crap going on it. And then the pump there, feeding that side of the pump, or we'll feed this side of the pump, sorry, because it's going to pump that way, round and up in. So a couple of cable ties on that. And then what we've actually got, we've got sort of a rubber or plastic cap. So I've got some Copex, because the problem we've got is there's a plug on the end of the cable. So I've got some large Copex. I'm going to drill a hole in there and then feed the cable down, feed the hose down, and then I should be able to get a gland on the end of that, which is actually something that I can then seal. I should be able to squirt some sealant in there and make sure that, again, no crap can get up inside the van, no damp, etc. So we can just simply pop that out, and then up there, I don't know if you can quite see, but it takes you up inside, up where the light is, where the rear light of the van is. So where we've just been looking outside, in that pillar there, we can actually feed down. I can come round there, I don't know if you can quite see, but I'll bring the Copex up, leave it in here, and we'll have the fuel line and the electrics ready to connect onto the diesel heater. So as you can see, feeding it just down there. If you can see in there, not sure if the camera is quite showing it. You can just see it in the bottom there. So we'll get underneath and we should be able to get the gland on the end. So we've managed to get the gland on. That's back in place. So if we feed the cable down and feed the fuel line down, we should be able to finish this off. So we've got the cable through, we've got the hose through. So the cable for the pump just plugs on. And then the fuel line. So we've fed the pump back to front as such, or we've turned it round so it's not the right way. Okay, so that's all in place. Probably do want to just I'll put another cable tie on there. Just bring them down together. What I'm not going to do, I'm not going to put any silicone in there. I'm actually going to probably get a bit of expanding foam. Obviously, if ever we need to replace any of this, then we'll need to be able to sort of dig it out, kind of thing. I think if you put silicone in there, we'll be really struggling. Right, let's connect up and then get the fuel tank ready. We've got everything in for the heater. We've got the fuel line down and through the pump's mounted up underneath. Got the exhaust in position, the air intake. We've connected the cable from the pump up onto the heater itself. So we just need to apply power to that once we're ready. So the next thing we need to do is get some diesel to it. So we are using the tank that came with it, which is just a 10 litre slim tank. Initially, because we've not actually filled in this wall under the garage yet, what we're going to do, we're simply going to attach it just to the side, just so that we can have the heater on, and we can use it while we're working. And then what we're going to do eventually is either get an under-mounted tank, or we've also considered actually mounting it on the back door, but we just need to make sure we're alright with the diesel line, etc. So let's get this tank connected. So the tank doesn't come pre-drilled. you've got a flat spot there where you need to drill it yourself, but this is actually looking like it's going to be quite a challenge, because you've got the fixing points inside, so they almost sort of block the route for getting anything in, and then when we actually tip out within the tank, you've got a nozzle in this packet, so somehow you've got to get the nozzle itself inside the tank and poking out where you drilled your hole. So let's have a look and see if we can come up with a way of doing that. You do get a rubber for the inside, just a little O-ring, and then one for the outside. So we're going to have it on that plane there, so we're going to connect the diesel to there. There's also another one there in case you try it the other way. So it turns out it's an 8mm hole that's needed to drill the side of the tank. So what I'm hoping I can do, I've actually got a cable rod. I'm hoping if I feed the cable rod through the hole, I can come out of the filler neck on the tank with it, and then carefully tape it on. Making sure we don't forget an O-ring. So last thing we want is any diesel dribbling out the tank and making the van stink. So I'm literally just going to put it against the end there, bit of electrical tape, and hopefully we'll get through. I put the O-ring on the outside. Just being really careful not to actually push that back in. And then the nut. There we are, we've managed to get it on, so it wasn't too bad. It was nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be anyway. That gives you some more of the self-drilling screws. So let's stand this up and see if we can get it somewhere. So we need to fix it somehow, we can't just have it flopping around. But also when the door closes we need to make sure that doesn't hit it as well. Plenty of room there. Get the cap on, no problem. The cap that's supplied is a breathable cap. That's alright. Let's say that's not its final place. That's just simply for now to give us some heat while we're working. And I'm not going to cut any of this fuel line down either, so priming might be a bit of an issue. As I say, we might end up putting it on the door, so I need a bit more filler line for that. Although there is one thing that I'm missing, and that is the filter. That'd be embarrassing, wouldn't it? No filter. So, believe it or not, I'm reading the instructions. The instructions aren't amazing. What you get is a little diagram just showing you how to put it all together. So just looking at that, the fatter side of the filter, the screw side, is to the tank. The other side is out to below. So we've got the tank filled. One thing I have noticed with this, you've actually got to put quite a bit of diesel in the tank before you get above the fill point, but we've got enough. So what we'll do, we'll get some power, 12 volts to this, and then we'll give it a go, see if it fires up. So for now we're just connecting to a temporary power supply. There is an inline fuse, which is a 20 amp. So we're going to be using that for now, but once we get the wiring in properly for this, it'll come from the little fuse board. So we've got a temporary supply. Let's give it power. There we go, we're on. So I've just been running the heater just a little bit, just to allow the pump just to get the diesel through. It did take a couple of times. Each time the diesel pumped a bit further, and then it goes to error because obviously it's got no fuel, so it can't run. So let's have a go. Let's see if we can get powered up. We're just using the controller connected like this, and let's turn it on. And as you can hear, it's running. And then just looking at the screen, it just goes through like a startup cycle. And then once you get the pump come on, you get the glow plug come on the screen, and then you get the pump come on. So the glow plugs just come on there. Yeah, I can hear the pump running now, and it also shows you on the display just there the pump running. And then what should happen is the glow plug light should go off once it's fired up and running. The display is a bit annoying, keeps going off. Yeah, so the glow plug light's gone off, which means it should be lit, as you can hear. And then putting my hand just on the end there, I can feel the air starting to warm. And there we are. Diesel heater installation complete. We've a lot more to do in the van. We're on with a bit of insulation and getting some cables in. So there'll be plenty more videos coming up. But at least we'll be able to do them in the warm. And we're hoping to be able to do it on an evening, on a weekend, when we've got some time. So thanks ever so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please do like, please do subscribe to support the channel, and we'll see you on the next one.